Hey everyone! So you've got this amazing, brilliant idea, but you're totally stuck on how to actually make it, right? We've all been there. Well, today we're going to fix that. We're diving into the most crucial first step for any creative project, having a solid plan.
I mean, really think about it for a second. How do you go from a cool idea in your head to a real movie, or a killer app, or a magazine cover that just pops? They don't just magically appear, right? So what's the secret? What's that magic ingredient that turns a spark of an idea into a real, finished thing?
It all starts with a blueprint. That's the secret. You know, an architect would never, ever try to build a house without a detailed plan, and it's the exact same for creative work. You just can't build something amazing without one. These blueprints, they're basically the roadmaps for your entire creative journey. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First up, why you even need a plan. Then we'll get into the good stuff, our three main blueprints, the storyboard, the visualization, and the wireframe. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about how to pick the perfect one for whatever you're working on. Let's get into it.
Okay, section 1, from idea to action. So yeah, let's start with the big why. Why is planning so darn important? Well, because if you skip it, you're basically diving headfirst into total creative chaos. And listen, we have all been there. You start a project, you're super excited, but there's no clear direction. What happens? Teams end up doing the same work over and over, the budget just disappears, and that incredible idea you started with, it just kind of fizzles out. It's so frustrating. These blueprints, they are the absolute cure for that chaos. So how do we fight back against that chaos? Let's talk about our very first blueprint, the one you need for any project that moves or happens over time. We're talking about the storyboard. Basically, a storyboard is like the comic book version of your project. It's a bunch of drawings, all in a row, that show exactly what the audience is going to see, shot by shot. Think of it as the visual script. It forces you to think like a filmmaker, telling a story that unfolds over time. This is absolutely your go-to for any kind of time-based media. You're making a film, an animated short, or maybe designing a cutscene for a video game. You're definitely going to be using a storyboard to map out the entire sequence of what happens. But hold on, a storyboard isn't just a bunch of pretty pictures. No way. Each little panel is packed with critical info. We're talking camera details like shots and angles. We're talking timings, transitions, even notes on sound and dialogue. It's literally a complete guide for the whole production crew. And what's so great about this is that it forces you to make the tough, practical decisions right up front. As soon as you sketch out a scene, you have to ask yourself, okay, where are we going to shoot this? A studio gives you tons of control, but it costs a lot. Outdoors looks realistic, but, the weather could ruin everything. The storyboard puts all those pros and cons right in front of you from day one.
All right, so storyboards are great for things that move, but what if your project doesn't? What if it's just one single static image? Well, for that, we need to turn to our second blueprint, the visualization. So where a storyboard shows a sequence of events, a visualization is totally different. It's a detailed mock-up of just one single layout. It's basically a sneak peek of the final design. Here, you're thinking like a graphic designer, focused completely on how it looks and the immediate impact it has. And trust me, you see these everywhere. A movie poster, a magazine cover, even the design for a game character or the cover of a Blu-ray. Basically, anything that needs to look amazing in a single glance starts with a visualization diagram. And again, just like with a storyboard, the details are everything. This diagram is going to tell you exactly where the images and graphics go. It'll have notes about the color scheme, and this is super important. It'll spell out all the typography details. We're talking font, size, style, the whole shebang. Absolutely nothing is left up to guesswork. Okay, on to our third and final blueprint. So we've covered things that move and things that just sit there and look pretty. But what about stuff that's interactive? Stuff you can click on and play with? For that, you're going to need a wireframe. The absolute best way to think about a wireframe is like the skeleton of a website or an app. It totally ignores all the pretty stuff. No colors, no cool fonts, no fancy graphics. Its one and only job is to map out the structure and how a user will get around. You're thinking about how it works, not how it looks. Function over form, that is the mantra here.
So if you're building a website, creating an app, or maybe even programming an interactive kiosk you'd see in a museum, you always start with a wireframe. It lets you plan out the entire user journey before anyone even thinks about writing code or designing a single graphic. And you can see just how basic it looks, right? Images are just boxes with an X in them. Text is just a bunch of lines. That's because the focus is 100% on the core stuff. It's all about answering questions like, where does the navigation menu go? Where do we put the buttons? What happens if someone clicks this? It is all about mapping out that user flow.
Okay, so we've gone through all three blueprints: the storyboard, the visualization, and the wireframe. Now, for maybe the most important question, how in the world do you know which one you're supposed to use? Well, this little table here makes it super simple. Is your main focus on sequence and time? Then you need a storyboard. Is it all about the look and feel of a single image? You're going to want a visualization. And if your project is all about structure and how it works, then a wireframe is your best friend. It's really just about matching the right tool to the job.
So look, here's the absolute bottom line. These things are not interchangeable. You just can't use a wireframe to plan a movie, right? And a storyboard isn't going to help you design a mobile app. Each one of these blueprints is a special tool for a very specific job. Picking the right one, that's your first big step towards making something amazing. When you start with the right blueprint, you take all that chaotic, creative energy and you focus it. You give your amazing idea the structure it desperately needs to become real. So really, there's only one question left to ask. What awesome thing are you going to blueprint next?